The scroll whispers again. Well, let's go.
Okay, let me tell you about a guy the Bible calls handsome from head to toe. And I'm not talking just cute, no. This guy was so good-looking that if he walked into a room, people probably needed sunglasses. His hair? Oh, his hair! So heavy the Bible literally weighs it in shekels, like heavier than your groceries, heavier than your weekend shopping haul. And you know what? This story has everything. Family drama, betrayal, rebellion, scandal, revenge, and yes, even some hair-related disasters. Now imagine being this gorgeous, charming, and magnetic, but at the same time your family is, let's just say, complicated. And I'm not even kidding. The drama in David's house makes any reality TV show look like a quiet Sunday picnic. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll laugh, gasp, maybe even feel slightly sorry for Absalom. Or maybe not, because the guy really had it coming. Trust me, you do not want to miss this. David's household was vast, complicated, and full of royal beauty. But beneath the surface, the seeds of tragedy had already been planted long before Absalom ever stood at the gates of Israel, charming the crowds. Years earlier, when David sinned with Bathsheba, God sent Nathan with a message that would silently shape everything that followed. "The sword shall never depart from your house. I will raise a disaster against you from within your own household." Those words, sharp and prophetic, hovered over the palace like a quiet storm cloud. And though David repented and found mercy, the ripple effects of that sin would move through his sons like a shadow they couldn't escape. Among David's children, Tamar was one of the brightest jewels of the kingdom, gentle, graceful, compassionate, and known throughout Jerusalem for her beauty and kindness. Her full brother Absalom shared the same royal dignity, but where Tamar was soft, Absalom carried a fierce and fiery spirit. He walked like a prince who knew destiny was somewhere waiting for him, and he was handsome in a way that made people stare a bit too long. And then there was Amnon, David's firstborn son, the heir, strong in appearance but weak in character. It began with Amnon's obsession. Tamar's beauty had captured him not as a sister, but as a desire he twisted in his mind until it consumed him. He grew pale, restless, unable to eat, and his friends noticed, especially Jonadab, a crafty, sharp-minded relative who had the kind of intelligence that created more trouble than solutions. Jonadab asked why the prince looked as if he carried sickness in his bones, and Amnon confessed everything, his unhealthy desire and his frustration. Jonadab came up with a plan that would become the spark for the fire that later engulfed David's house. "Pretend to be sick," he said, "and when the king comes to check on you, ask him to send Tamar to cook for you." It was a manipulative plan, but Amnon agreed, deceiving King David with his false illness. David, compassionate and unsuspecting, sent Tamar to nurse Amnon. Tamar arrived carrying flour, kneading dough with her gentle hands, cooking cakes in sight of Amnon. As he watched her in a simmering tension, neither she nor the servants understood. When she prepared food, Amnon refused to eat and demanded everyone leave the room. She, still innocent, still trusting, obeyed when he asked her to bring the food into his private chamber. But once she stepped inside, he seized her. Startled, terrified, she pleaded with him in words full of wisdom, desperation, and dignity. "No, my brother, do not force me. Such a thing should not be done in Israel. Don't do this disgraceful thing. And where would I take my shame? And as for you, you would be like one of the wicked fools in Israel. Speak to the king. He will not withhold me from you." She was not suggesting sin. She was trying to escape, giving any argument that might pierce his madness. But Amnon refused to listen. In the haze of his obsession, he violated her. The moment it was over, something darker happened. His lust snapped into hatred, fierce and cruel. The love he claimed to have felt turned instantly into a disgust greater than his earlier desire. "Get up," he barked, "and get out." Tamar stared in disbelief, her voice trembling. "No, sending me away would be worse than what you already did." Her words were true. By sending her off, she would be publicly discarded, ruined in the eyes of society. But Amnon shouted for a servant, commanded him to throw her out and lock the door behind her. Tamar stumbled out into the open air, her heart shattered. She tore the long, flowing robe she wore, the special garment only virgin daughters of the king wore. It was not just clothing, it was her identity, her future. She placed ashes on her head, a symbol of deep mourning, and walked away with her hands on her head, crying with a sorrow that gripped the heart of anyone who saw her. She fled to Absalom's house. When he saw her, his face changed immediately, reading her pain before she even spoke. "Has Amnon, your brother, been with you?" he asked quietly. Tamar broke down, and Absalom took her into his home. He tried to comfort her, speaking softly, but beneath his calm words, something hard, cold, and dangerous formed inside him. "Keep silent, my sister," he said. "He is your brother." But this was not dismissal, it was strategy. Tamar lived in Absalom's house as a desolate woman, her spirit wounded beyond repair. King David heard of everything and was furious. His anger shook him, but he did nothing. Whether it was fatherly favoritism, political caution, or the lingering shame of his own past sins, David did not act. And Absalom noticed. He said nothing to Amnon, not a word of peace or anger, for 2 whole years. He waited, silent, plotting with the patience of a hunter who knew the prey would not escape. 2 years later, Absalom organized a grand sheep-shearing festival, a time of feasting, music, and celebration. He invited all the king's sons and asked David directly to attend, but David declined politely, not wanting to burden Absalom with the presence of the royal entourage. Then Absalom requested one person in particular, Amnon. David hesitated. Something about the request felt too pointed, too specific. "Why should he go with you?" David asked. But Absalom insisted, masking all tension behind a charming smile and calm explanation. David, unaware of the storm brewing beneath that calmness, eventually agreed. The feast was lively, full of laughter and wine. When Amnon was merry and his guard down, Absalom gave a quiet command to his servants. "Watch when Amnon's heart is cheerful with wine. When I signal, strike him down. Do not fear, have I not commanded you?" The servants obeyed. When Absalom gave the signal, Amnon fell dead. The other princes fled instantly, leaping onto their mules and racing away in a cloud of dust. It created a panic so intense that false rumors reached David that all his sons had been killed. But Jonadab, ever the informed troublemaker, corrected the king, saying, "No, only Amnon is dead. Absalom has plotted this ever since the day Tamar was violated." Absalom fled to Geshur and remained there 3 years. David mourned Amnon with a grief that softened into longing for Absalom. But though his heart yearned to see him, he took no steps toward reconciliation. Joab, always perceptive, saw the king's internal battle. He knew David wanted peace but didn't know how to reach for it. So Joab devised a plan. He went to Tekoa, a town known for its wise women, and found a woman with intelligence, courage, and an acting ability that rivaled the greatest performers of any age. Joab instructed her to pretend to be a grieving widow and tell the king a story that would trap him gently into facing the issue he had avoided for years. The woman dressed in mourning clothes, refused ointment, and came before David crying, "Help me, O king." David asked her what troubled her, and she began her tale. "I am a widow. I had 2 sons. They fought in the field where no one could separate them. One killed the other. Now the whole family rises against me, demanding I hand over my remaining son to be executed. If they kill him, there will be no heir left for my husband, no name, no future." David assured her that her son would not be harmed. But the wise woman pressed further, speaking words that pierced David's heart. "Why have you judged this matter so kindly for me, yet you keep your own banished son away? We will all die. We are like water spilled on the ground which cannot be recovered. But God does not take away life. He devises ways so that the banished may not remain an outcast." David recognized the wisdom behind her words and suddenly realized who orchestrated this. "Tell me," he said, narrowing his gaze, "is Joab behind all this?" The woman smiled slightly and admitted it was so. David called Joab and said, "Go, bring back the young man Absalom." Joab bowed deeply, relieved. He traveled to Geshur and brought Absalom back to Jerusalem. But when they returned, David gave a painful command. Absalom could return to his own house, but he was not permitted to see the king's face. After years away, Absalom came home, yet still exiled emotionally. He lived in Jerusalem 2 more years without ever seeing his father, the distance between them stretching like a wound that refused to close. During this time, Absalom's reputation only grew. He was stunning from head to toe without a single physical flaw. His hair was legendary, so thick and heavy that each year when he cut it, it weighed over 200 shekels. People whispered about him in the streets, admiring him, wondering about him, noticing him in every public event. But while the people adored him, Absalom grew increasingly frustrated at being ignored by Joab and isolated by his father. He sent messages to Joab asking for help securing an audience with David, but Joab refused to come, twice. So Absalom used a method guaranteed to get attention. He ordered his servants to set Joab's barley field on fire. Smoke rose over the city, and Joab stormed into Absalom's house, demanding, "Why did your servants set my field on fire?" Absalom replied calmly, "I sent for you, and you did not come. Now please arrange for me to see the king. If I am guilty, let him put me to death." Joab, half furious, half impressed, went to the king. David finally summoned Absalom, who came, bowed with his face to the ground, and David kissed him. But beneath the kiss, the relationship remained cracked, an unhealed fracture waiting to split. After David kissed Absalom, the palace corridors still buzzed with whispers. Everyone had seen the reunion, but no one could mistake the tension in the air. Absalom was back in the city, yet he was not satisfied. The taste of power, of admiration from the people, lingered on his tongue like honey, sweet, addictive, and dangerous. He had been away long enough to plan carefully, to observe, to understand how hearts could be swayed. And now he was determined to see if he could command more than admiration. He wanted loyalty. Absalom began positioning himself near the city gate, the place where disputes and petitions from the people always came. Day by day, he greeted the citizens, listened to their complaints, and offered comforting words. "If only the king were to appoint someone to hear your grievance," he would say, lowering his voice conspiratorially, "then justice would be served swiftly. But as it stands, no one is available to help you. Were I appointed, your case would be heard immediately, and I would give you justice." He would reach out, take their hands, and kiss them, a gesture that seemed heartfelt. He smiled with sincerity, leaning just enough to make the people feel acknowledged. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Absalom began to steal the hearts of the Israelites. People started to say, "Absalom would make a good king. The king himself seems distant. Absalom cares for us." Even though David had restored Absalom and kissed him, he still had no idea of the storm gathering. Absalom was a master strategist, patient as a lion waiting in the tall grass. He spent 4 years winning the loyalty of Israel quietly, polishing his charm, understanding the fears and desires of the people, and calculating his next move. Then came the fateful day. Absalom called for a gathering in Hebron, claiming he wanted to fulfill a vow he had made to God while in Geshur. David, unsuspecting, blessed him and sent him off with a small contingent of loyal men. But Absalom had no vow to fulfill. He had something else entirely, a secret network of loyal followers ready to declare him king. Messengers moved swiftly, spreading the word to every corner of Israel. When you hear the sound of trumpets declare, Absalom is king in Hebron. 200 men from Jerusalem, thinking they were attending a feast, joined him unwittingly. Even some of David's trusted men began to desert him, drawn by Absalom's charisma and promises. When news of Absalom's uprising reached David, his heart sank. The king remembered all too well the fear of fleeing Saul, the emptiness of leaving the city, the vulnerability of his family. He knew that this was no ordinary rebellion. It was a civil war inside his own house, and the man leading it was his own son. David acted swiftly, but with care. He could not fight his people directly. He had to protect his family. He gathered his household, loyal soldiers, and fled Jerusalem by night. He ascended the Mount of Olives, the city disappearing behind him like a precious memory slipping through his fingers. His head was covered in mourning, and his heart was heavy with sorrow. Men wept openly beside him. The streets were silent witnesses to the king's grief. Ahithophel, David's trusted counselor, had sided with Absalom. That cut deeper than any sword. Ahithophel's advice had always been wise. His counsel was as if the oracle of God himself had spoken. To have him betray David meant that every move would now be fraught with danger. David prayed quietly, asking God to turn Ahithophel's counsel into foolishness. Meanwhile, Absalom marched toward Jerusalem, the city trembling in suspense. The people whispered his name in the streets, half in awe, half in fear. His popularity had grown to such a degree that even seasoned soldiers hesitated to oppose him openly. Absalom was young, handsome, and magnetic. His hair, his charm, his confidence, all worked like a spell on anyone who crossed his path. As Absalom's forces approached, David received advice from Hushai, a loyal friend who volunteered to stay in Jerusalem as a double agent. Hushai pretended to join Absalom, flattering him and giving advice designed to slow the rebellion. Absalom, believing him sincere, welcomed Hushai into his inner circle. But Hushai's mission was clear: to sabotage Absalom's plans from the inside, giving David precious time to prepare his forces. Absalom's army, numbering thousands, moved into the forest of Ephraim, seeking battle with David's smaller, loyal army. The tension was thick as the morning mist, and the air smelled of dust, sweat, and fear. Absalom, riding at the front of his men, looked like a king in his own right, handsome, brave, confident, as if the crown were already his. During the battle, chaos erupted. Arrows flew, swords clashed, and men cried out in terror. Absalom, eager to display his heroism, rode directly into the fray on his mule. But in a fateful twist, the mule went under the thick branches of a large oak tree, and Absalom's head became entangled in its heavy boughs. His feet left the ground, and he dangled helplessly, a man trapped by his own pride and vanity. Absalom's hair, that thick and legendary mane, became the instrument of his downfall. As he struggled, caught in the branches, the cries of the battlefield surrounded him. Joab, David's commander, noticed the trapped prince. He took 3 javelins in his hand and thrust them into Absalom's heart, while he hung suspended. The young, ambitious, magnetic son of David fell to the ground, lifeless. The army went silent as word spread. When David's men finally told him, he wept aloud, his face buried in his hands. O my son Absalom, my son Absalom. Would I had died instead of you, O Absalom, my son, my son. His voice rang through the wilderness, a heartbroken wail that cut through even the sounds of victory. The death of Absalom brought relief to the kingdom, but it also brought deep mourning. David's grief was unlike any other. He had lost a son, a beautiful, talented, and ultimately rebellious child. He wept not just for Absalom, but for what could have been. The dreams, the future, the lost potential. Even the victory felt hollow. Absalom was buried in a large pit in the forest of Ephraim, and a massive heap of stones was piled on top of him, a monument to his life, his ambition, and the tragedy of his rebellion. After the mourning, David slowly returned to Jerusalem. The city welcomed him, but there was a sober tone to the celebrations. People remembered the fallen son, the lost battles, and the fragile nature of power. David, older now, wiser in grief, re-established his rule. He forgave those who had fought against him, but mourned deeply the loss of his child. Before the story ends, David prayed, a simple, heartfelt prayer that spoke to every parent, every ruler, and every soul who had ever known grief and failure. Lord, I confess my sins and my failures. I mourn for my son Absalom, and I know your ways are higher than mine. Help me to lead with wisdom, to protect my family, and to care for your people. Teach me mercy, even when the heart is heavy. Heal our wounds, O God, and let justice and love walk hand in hand in this land. Amen. And so the tale of Absalom ends, a story of beauty and charm, sin and rebellion, ambition and tragedy, but also of the enduring mercy of God, the complexity of a father's love, and the sobering lesson that even the best of plans can be undone by pride and impatience.
If you have reached this far, we thank you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This helps our channel. Who's that? Watch this video here also. Until next time, bye!